Well, we're just delighted that you're here. It's such a wonderful turnout. And I wanted to introduce Clara,
Totally.
She is the owner of the company store, and I don't know if you've read much about Clara, but she's done a marvelous job restoring this building. And I'm going to give her just a few minutes to talk about it, and so that she can share with you what she's actually done.
All right. Well, welcome to my store. I'm glad you found your way to the private event room. I know that most of you have probably never been in this room, but I do have special events in it at times. Now that COVID's over, I'm going to make it more available, maybe even promote it. I haven't promoted it yet. I just wanted to say that 3 years ago, April, I bought the building. It is my passion project, and I have completely restored it from floor to ceiling. All the floors, walls, and timbers in the roof are all original, especially in the big room. There are skylights that have been revealed. I have 36 windows in the roof that I'm going to get some grant money to open up again, hopefully 2023. And also the concrete floors, which are this was an add-on in 1963, and then that was an add-on in 1980. So this window, this transom window, this door, that door, or the back door to the alley. This used to be an alley behind Avenue B. And if I do turn this room into anything I am going to call it the alley, because this is where the alley was, and these are the original walls. My walls inside the building have been exposed. They are made from the Humperdam concrete. They would bring the concrete up in the truck, make the bricks on site, lay the bricks. That's how this whole building was built. We removed 5 floors from the floor. Linoleum, tile, linoleum. There was a really cool, in the very front of the door, there was from Roy Fairbanks Men's Store, a piece of tile that had a top hat, 2 men's gloves, and a cane. It was a 3x3 piece of tile that was inlaid in the linoleum. And they made me remove it because it was held down with asbestos tar. So I did get a few nice pictures of that historic art that I will be putting up in my on one of my walls inside the store eventually. But I did try and preserve everything of value. We do have a safe in the ground in the break room. It's a safe that's shaped like an Erlenmeyer flask if you are a chemist. It's narrow at the top and wider at the bottom, so no one can pull it out of the ground because it was cement was poured around it. So that's a unique thing that this building has. I guess a lot of the buildings in the 30s had a secret safe in the floor, and mine is still here, so that's neat. The car in the room is a 1928 DeSoto. My father bought it in 1979 from a Boulder City resident that owned it. The only resident that owned it since 1929, and he registered it here in Nevada. So I have a picture in the DeSoto window of Nevada Way back in 1932, which is when the car would have been driving around town. We also have a showcase along the cash counter in my store with Humperdam Museum artifacts that they chose specifically for me. I requested artifacts that had to do with how the dam workers got the job done. And as you notice, I have lots of old chains and tool belts and tools and hard hats and things that of that nature. That everything's authentic, basically. I did a little collection from my friends. We are 5th generation Hoover dam worker families now, right, Dorothy? 5th generation. I asked locals that I've grown up with to go in their grandpa's garages and give me anything old and rusty that was stuck in a corner, and that's how I decorated my store. So it is very true to Boulder City, and it is like I said, my passion project. I'm very proud to honor Boulder City in this way, and I'm glad you're here today. Yay.
Thank you, Dr. Greene, and take over now.
Thank you. Thank you. Years ago, I was part of Humanities on the Road. You've gotten Chautauquans from Nevada Humanities. And somebody called from Elko and said, can you do a Humanities on the Road for us on LinkedIn? I said, oh, sure. And they said, now, do you need any special equipment for your Chautauqua? I thought, I'm 5'7". I would need stilts. I need extra high boots or something. So no, I don't do that. But it's great to be here, and especially with fellow preservationists. Alan may take over and do the lecture before we're done. Entirely possible. We're here today to talk a bit about Boulder City, a bit about some things that went on at the same time Boulder City was getting started, a bit about the dam. I wore my dam shirt. Boulder City being the best place in the world because little kids can cuss at an early age. And it's special to be in Tara's building because you walk outside and there is the sign, the plaque, that this is part of the Boulder City Historic District on the National Register of Historic Places. Now, not every place wants to be a historic district. Years ago, they tried to make Goldfield a historic district, and nobody in Goldfield wanted visitors. So they objected. And so they stuck with their economy, which is speeding tickets. I do wish to tell you for the record, I had years ago a girlfriend whose brother was graduating from Boulder City High School, and their class project was to steal the mannequin. Now, some of you know exactly what I mean. The police department will put the car out there with the mannequin, and the policeman in uniform, and they stole the mannequin from the police department. And it was the peak of his life. But this is a historic district, and there are places where history makes you think the place is dead. I need to put it that way. Years ago, there was a professor I had who did a lecture about how New York City is exciting in a winter because they tear down their old buildings and replace them with new things. Now! And he said, in Philadelphia and Boston, they're stuck. They're stuck in the past. Well, no. It's that they understand the value of their past. And that is what Boulder City has and does. Now, I want to pay tribute to the people of Boulder City for things like the public art that evokes that past, the walking tour, which is great, and how you welcome historical types like us. And I'm going to introduce these two wonderful students shortly. But for several years, I have done a National Endowment of the Humanities program for teachers here. And we meet in the hotel, or we met in the Water and Power building. We once were allowed to meet in the Bureau of Reclamation building. We had to learn the secret handshake. It was a real risk to get in there. And teachers from around the country came here and marveled at a community that appreciates its history. But there are other ways to think of Boulder City's history, I think. And I'd like to mention a couple of them. And one of them is the fact that we're in something called the company store. And if you go back to the beginning, you have the 6 companies store. And in a lot of ways, Boulder City was a company town. Now, people tend to forget the original name was the Boulder Canyon Federal Reservation. It was an Indian reservation in its own way, and I put that in quotation marks. But if you think of the stories of Sims Ely being a dictator, who didn't allow anybody to do the things that everyone knows Nevada's great at. Made them go out to Railroad Pass. Which is why I've said for years, you cannot gamble in Boulder City. But if you go to the city limits and fall forward, you will hit your head on a slot machine at Railroad Pass. There were times workers were paid in scrip. There were the company barracks. And they had all kinds of things set up where Boulder City was not completely a company town, but it is unique as a federal, almost company town. And if you go back to the turn of the 20th century, in White Pine County, there are 3 towns, Ruth, Kimberly, and McGill, that the Copper Company built. And they were company towns. Goldfield was a company town. They were paid in scrip. It led to this major union uprising in Boulder City. Excuse me, in Goldfield. In Boulder City, there's a union uprising involving the same group that tried to unionize Goldfield, the IWW. And you don't necessarily think of Boulder City in connection with Goldfield or with White Pine County copper towns, except there are these connections. And then some of you today are probably going to go to the Railroad Museum. And you have a great new director of that museum who's going to do great things there, Christopher McMahon. And it is based on the fact that the Union Pacific Railroad spur was built out here. Okay, where did that come from? Well, the Union Pacific took over the San Pedro, Los Angeles, and Salt Lake Railroad, which had been built, amazingly, from San Pedro to Los Angeles to Salt Lake. And Las Vegas was a division point, meaning a place you could stop, get repairs, get fed and watered, your train, your horse, yourself, and go on about your business. And the railroad being built through there created the town of Las Vegas. Well, the railroad was necessary for the creation of Boulder City because it was necessary for the building of Humperdam. And in that way, Boulder City is, in its own way, a railroad town. Now go back. The Pacific Railroad Act of 1862 led to what was kind of mistakenly called the Transcontinental Railroad. It's not. They built from Omaha. The railroad went out to Omaha. They built from there. And what happened was that the Union Pacific was building west from Omaha. The Central Pacific was building east from Sacramento, and they were hoping that when the time came, they didn't go and miss. All right, we know they needed Promontory Point, Utah, drive the Golden Spike. We have a railroad that connects the Atlantic and the Pacific. This leads to the creation of railroad towns throughout the West, and especially in Nevada. And you can start with Reno and continue east to Winnemucca, on to Elko, to Carlin. Later, the Southern Pacific builds Sparks, and the Union Pacific, in partnership with William Andrews Clark, creates the Las Vegas town site, whose birthday is tomorrow. Las Vegas is a Taurus, for those who are curious. Taurus is the bull. A lot of bull in Las Vegas.
Swinging.
Or as my friend Ralph Denton used to say, you're going to cross the burning sands to the county seat. Well, Las Vegas starts as a railroad town and is almost a company town in its own right, too. It depends on the railroad. They don't have scrip. The railroad doesn't own the store, but it owns the town site. And Boulder City has its similarity in being a federal company town that the railroad contributed to building. And if we think of Boulder City that way, I think it's even more historic. Then we throw in that I'm going to make an apolitically political comment. It really bugs me when people say, you're going to turn Nevada into another California. Which part of California do you mean? Are you going to turn us into La Jolla? The beach? All right! My wife was raised in Merced, in the Central Valley. Are we going to be Merced? Oh, God. Don't want to do that. So, California is many, they say it's many Californias. Well, I've often said that our border goes the wrong way. It's this way. It really ought to be this way. Because we are much more closely tied to Southern California than to Northern Nevada. And Northern Nevada is more closely tied to Northern California. This goes back to the Comstock Law. And if you look at Nevada's history, San Francisco and the Bay Area, the Virginia City, then to Reno, in this area, Southern Nevada was first visited by Anglos who were on the old Spanish Trail. There had already been Native Americans here from time immemorial. We had had probably Spanish and Mexican visitors before. The story is Antonio Armijo was the New Mexican trader who came through Las Vegas and helped establish the Old Spanish Trail. It was probably there long before him. But the Old Spanish Trail went from the Albuquerque-Santa Fe area to Los Angeles. And then Mormon missionaries came and were part of the Mormon Road from Salt Lake to San Bernardino, Southern California. The railroads built, LA to Salt Lake. The first interstate highway is not Las Vegas to Reno. It's the old Arrowhead Highway to the LA area, which later evolves into Highway 91 and later I-15, and off we go. And in this way, Southern Nevada and Southern California have been very closely tied. Well, why are we here? Why is Boulder City here? Why is Humperdam here? Humperdam, water, electricity. Who needed it? Southern California in particular, because they couldn't steal any more of the water and electricity from Northern California. And the water here involving LA, the LA Water and Power Building here. There are these ties between California and Nevada, love them or hate them. Boulder City's a part of it, but we don't often talk about it that way. We think of Las Vegas and Los Angeles. Take into account Boulder City. There's another tie that people don't explore. I have been getting a little too much media attention lately because you all keep having dead bodies pop up in your lane. Now, I've been asked about this by numerous people, and a little inside story. The Associated Press reporter called me, and we're talking about it, and I said, well, people are talking about the wrong thing. He said, what? I said, they're talking about whether it's a mobster. What they need to be talking about is the fact the lake is low enough for this guy to surface. And he said, thank you for saying that. I want that in the story, and nobody has said it. They're all excited about the mob. Well, I don't think we think of Boulder City in connection with organized crime. Though there have been criminals here in Boulder City, and they've organized, but not the same. But there are also these connections to Arizona that Nevadans don't often think about. And Boulder City's at the heart of that. If you think of the fact that on Humperdam you stand like this and you're in 2 states, great! But this area was previously in Arizona territory. It was part of Paiute County. And Octavius Decatur Gass, who had the old Mormon mission that became the Las Vegas Ranch, that is now the old Mormon Fort State Park, was in fact the Speaker of the Arizona Territorial Assembly. And later, the Showboat Hotel would open on Boulder Highway. Their idea was it was part of the Arizona Strip. They were going to have a second strip for people driving in from Arizona. Unfortunately, they all got stuck on top of Humperdam. So nobody could get here. And that has changed. I just wanted to bring up some of these things that help put Boulder City in historical perspective. But there's something else going on when Boulder City has its beginnings, and that is where the fun will be today. In 1931, Nevada reduced the residency requirement for divorce to 6 weeks. It legalized gambling. But we also begin to see Hollywood types coming up here to get married, or divorced, or both, at the same time. And one of the biggest stars in silent film was called the It Girl, Clarabelle. And she fell in love with a cowboy actor, Rex Bell. They got married. And not far from Boulder City, it's a pretty quick drive, near Searchlight, is the Walking Box Ranch. Now, our students in our public history program have done a lot of different things over the years, and have in fact been working recently with the Bureau of Reclamation to update some of the interpretation at the dam, to work on various other things. And one of our major projects is the Walking Box Ranch, which is preserved and in pretty good shape. And I'm going to introduce a couple of people who are going to talk about it a little bit, in addition to which they have brought goodies. And here's the fun part about historic preservation. They're going to be allowed to touch, right? Yeah. You know where it says, look, don't touch? You're going to get to touch. These are 2 of our finest students, although one of them is no longer one of our students because yesterday she graduated with her MA. And that is Cassidy Whetstone. Annie Delgado also walked yesterday, although she's going right into the PhD program, as our first Shuck graduate assistant and endowed graduate assistantship in the public history program. And very soon we will have a public history institute who will be doing even more fun stuff. But they are going to show off the Walking Box Ranch and some of the work done on that, and how it involved Clara and Rex, who got married, you know what? About the time they started plotting this little town. So, Cassidy and Annie.
Come on in.
All right, hi everybody. So like Dr. Greene said, I'm Cassidy. This is Annie.
Come on in.
Yeah, we'll let them come in before you get started.
Right there. You can take that chair.
Oh, yeah.
We've been holding it for you.
And the two of us are both students in the public history program at UNLV that's been involved with this, like Dr. Greene said, these projects with the Humperdam Grove Reclamation as well as with the Walking Box Ranch. And so just a little bit about the Walking Box Ranch and what this project entails. It's been largely in a partnership with the Bureau of Land Management. And so this is a ranch that's out in Searchlight that Clarabelle and Rex Bell purchased and built in 1931. And it operated as a cattle ranch through the mid-1940s. And then after they left Searchlight and moved into Las Vegas, and then the ranch changed hands a few times, but now the ranch has come back into being owned by a group, land management, and UNLV is also helping with the preservation of the objects in particular in the house. And so currently we have a bunch of the objects that are from the house in the ranch, and we're helping the preservation and the interpretation of these items. That there's more to history than the names and dates that people tend to think, and that there's history that you can go and touch and and just experience for yourself. And so that's just a little bit of background about what this project has entailed. And so we have some objects here that are from the collection, from Clarabelle and Rex Bell, and their family as well, who donated some objects to us for the sake of expanding the narrative of this ranch and kind of these connections. The ranch is kind of this unique spot where you have this intersection of a lot of different culture and just types of history, where Hollywood meets cowboy type thing. Hollywood, the glamorous Hollywood, Clarabelle and Rex Bell, these actors come in and they're ranching, and this kind of dream, like that Western dream, that like Wild West cowboy narrative that Rex Bell was certainly after to try to create for himself. But so these objects that are here with us are some that are from Clara and Rex. So we have like, this makeup case is one of our more popular items that are from the collection. It's Clarabelle's makeup case from the 1940s, and with it's still very largely intact with the original pieces inside of it. And one just fun little thing about this is this was Clara's mascara. And when you open it, you can actually see her brush is still in it, but you can see the lines in it too from where she ran it to put it on. See some pretty thick mascara. But yeah, so this one really is very well preserved. And you can kind of see it how Clara left it. And that's one thing that's really cool about this ranch, and what we're trying to do with getting it back into how it was in the 30s when Rex and Clara were there, is that then with these objects out there and everything, you can go to the ranch and kind of see it how it was when they were there. Like maybe they're just out for the afternoon and you're going through their house. Yeah, so that is Clara's makeup case. And then here on the table next to it, we have a shirt that is from Rex Bell, who owned a country store, Western Country Store. And this is the Walking Box brand. That typical, again, that cowboy, it's a glamorous cowboy though. It's not the most functional kind of shirt. More for the show here, and it's got Rex Bell's name embroidered on the back of it, as well as the it. And then we actually in our collection have a few different cowboy hats. Some were from Rexbell, like that he wore. Others, there's a hat that, bringing the Hollywood connection to it, they brought a hat to a movie set. We believe it was The Westerner, we're not positive. And a bunch of the actors, the cast of the movie, they all signed the Cowboy Hats. We have like Tonto and the Lone Ranger signed it. And so yeah, so then this is one of the hats. Okay, Beaver County Sheriff brand on this one. Yeah, so we have a cowboy hat. We have this is the Eldorado 1955 Parade Marshal Trophy that was presented to Rexbell. We have a couple of these. We've got a few of these trophies each time. And so this is just one of a few. In addition to this gun holster. Again, much more about the design of it than maybe the functionality of it. But so we have holsters, we have some of these chaps. Don't really have a whole lot of dirt on them, more of a show. But yeah, and just the detail, and when you come up here, if you get a chance to take a look at this holster too, and the very intricate details that are on it, there's a lot of really intricate design on here, more than you can really see from up here. So this is definitely one of the finer pieces as well from the collection. And a scrapbook that was made for Rex. Again, it might be a little hard to see in back there about how intricate the design is on here. But leather bound, and it's carved out for Rexbell. I don't know if there's silk in here. Yeah. So it's kind of the little fun things that come along with this work too. Was not until very recently did we find a photograph in here. When you open it, it's empty. There's nothing on the pages inside, anything like that. But we did find a photo that was signed, it was addressed to Rex, that was stuck in very back, kind of tucked in the back corner. And then we just recently found this kind of little gem that we found. Comes along with this type of thing. And then, yeah, so that's pretty much it for that's up here. We have some photographs as well that were from the house. Of Rex, and we have a photo of Clara and the children out by the pool at the ranch. So it kind of shows, those ones are really fun because you can see the ranch as it was in the house and see where they were at that moment in the house, and you can stand from where that picture was taken, kind of just envision what was going on when that picture was taken. Yes, that's it up here, and then we do have in the back, on the back table there, we do have a Navajo rug.
The rug's under everything.
Okay, yeah, so we have a Navajo rug. There were many rugs like this that were on display in the ranch, in the house, up on the walls and things like that. And so we have those rugs. And then there's also a variety of ranching tools. Touch at your own risk. They're rusty. And there's some scary looking things back there.
What's this?
It's a caliper. Measure the caliper.
Measure the cow's what?
It's a caliper.
Caliper.
You measure like.
Oh my gosh, that was great.
Way
You
to
couldn't
go,
do
Tara.
that again.
No, I couldn't. It's a caliper, not a cow's
Measure
what.
the cow's
Sorry.
what.
If they use that
I
on the
love
cow would know. That's line to the.
But yeah, so some of these
You'll not
tools
forget
out
what
there,
they are.
really just a variety of this collection. Again, kind of just demonstrating this kind of intersection between the glamorous Hollywood and then the not so pretty side of ranching too. And we get some of these big and scary tools, and then these beautiful shirts and things like that. So yeah, so we're really just trying to kind of showcase this collection and just kind of how this ranch in particular shows a side to particularly the Mojave region and everything out here, this local history of the 1930s and Searchlight, and there's more to it than a lot of people realize. And Clarabelle and Rexbell were very large figures in Searchlight during the 30s. There were a lot of social events, and at the time the dam workers were also going out to Searchlight, in addition to Las Vegas for some bars and brothels and things like that were out there. So Rex and Clara were also very prominent figures in Searchlight during this time as well. But yeah, so we invite you to take a look at everything. Feel free, again, touch at your own risk with the tools back there, but you can.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I went out there one time with my husband to the walking back ranch, and some man came out and talked to us, but it wasn't open. Is it open now for visitors?
When's it gonna be available for us to go and tour?
So it is open for private appointments currently. If you send them, you can call or send them an email or call them and they will give you a tour. Currently, it's not just open to the public, you can just go on out there. I am not sure, the pandemic kind of slowed things down a little bit. Initially, we had a very much sooner date for when that would happen. It's going to be up and going, but so kind of just trying to get the momentum again after the pandemic, kind of slowed things down a little bit. So I don't have a set date at this moment in time.
Another question. So the state of Nevada then owns it then?
Yeah.
Bureau of Land
Oh, Bureau of
Management.
Land
Bureau of Land
Management.
Management.
So that's federal.
So we're working with them currently, we're in conversation with them, but the conversation slowed during the pandemic, so we're hoping right now to get, we have a bunch of furniture that we store at UNLV, so we're hoping to get it sent back to the ranch so that we can have it looking just like it was before, so after that, I don't know when that will be, but hopefully we'll open to the public after that.
I know this is kind of a private question, but so your research and study has been part of your thesis or whatever. So the university let you in, like, how did that work?
Yeah, so for me specifically, my thesis wasn't directly tied to this, but being a part of the public history program is my minor. We enrolled in this particular class, part of history 749, 750, 2 public history classes that are offered. And so for me, for example, for the class, again, this was right at the start, right when COVID hit, so things changed a little bit, but my class was specifically working on the going through the collection and creating inventory. So what I did specifically was going through these collections and just really trying to get a sense of the extent of the collection. Doing condition reports, trying to figure out the preservation needs of the collection, and kind of identifying which items were like our best condition versus some that needed a little more care, or some that would be okay to go back out to the ranch, or if maybe a museum needs to step in and give a little more tailored care for some of these objects. Doing that type of thing. So we've been using the public history students as part of just our general course studies as public history to get the hands-on experience with handling these items and doing the detailed condition reports, things like that. But then also working on these presentations and planning public events to try to just increase the narrative about the ranch.
That's wonderful experience.
Well, what is public history? I mean, just explain rather than non-public history.
In the most general sense, it's history that's outside academia. So not necessarily the traditional, like a lecture type of history. So museums, historic sites, more just I guess public interaction. So when you go to historic sites or like you're walking tour going around like that would exactly be public history. So just kind of where there's that just general public interaction as well, and that relationship with the community too, of trying to build, reaching out with people from Searchlight, I think who grew up around the ranch, getting stories from them to try to build a narrative, and kind of I guess more of a community-oriented type of approach.
And still with, we dusty academic types who have to make sure everything's footnoted, it's as rigorous, if not more so, in terms of making sure it's correct.
Okay, my question was, and I got here a little late, but I think I got here for the beginning, please. Do you know, is the ranch a working ranch or more of a meeting set during the time of ranch and Clara?
They operate it as a ranch.
So they
it still had the kind of glamour to it in a lot of ways, but they own, I forget how we have it. They had a very large number of cattle. They operated it as a cattle ranch.
And it was partly BLM and partly, some of the land is deeded to?
So now it's BLM. It wasn't BLM at the time, but it is now. Since they had left the ranch and it changed ownership a couple times, some corporations came through and purchased the ranch and used it for business retreats, things like that. But now the land is owned by BLM.
that they mimicked what was originally here, but no longer, it's now all BLM.
Yes.
A lot of the ranches to that are, they have a smaller unit property, but it gets in alignment from BLM. And so I just wondered if it was set up that way or if it was just one piece.
Right, yeah, no, yeah.
Maybe they'll be back filming movies there once we go.
So again, that is part of the complication too with the house in particular, because BLM, like, they do land, not managing houses. So that has been part of that relationship that UNLV's been involved with. Right, and there are some other partner organizations too, walking blocks out there who are involved in kind of just more the preservation of the house part, and then BLM can handle the land part. Yeah.
Well, says it in relation to Harry Reid's estate, and how did he play in bringing the preservation forward on this property?
Yeah, so he was very excited about this project. He knew about it. I believe we even have some oral histories from him discussing the ranch when he was growing up in Searchlight. Kind of line. So he was very involved with the interpretation of the ranch.
And over the years, there have been grants that he was involved in getting that the predecessor group to our public history students worked with the BLM.
So did Rex Bell and Clarabelle have any Boulder city history? Is there anything, stories about them in this town? Or they kind of, I'm not researching.
Yeah, there are stories about Clara at the hotel and getting into the theater, seeing some showings in the theater as well. Yeah, she got in for free a couple times.
Was it her movies that they watched?
Right? I know. I don't think they were, but you know. Yeah. But yeah, I don't have as much of a knowledge of the direct stories of Clara in Boulder City in particular, but I do know that that she was here quite a bit. Yeah, at the hotel and then between the theater.
Is there a screen show?
No, we're showing off the website, and if I can make this work right, but we have everything from the history of it. You can do a search for Walking Box Ranch, UNLV, you can see the site, the kinds of research and exhibits that students in particular have worked on. So there's a lot of stuff we've been doing, they've been doing, I have been doing, the Imperial League, and a lot more to come.
And there is one cool function on the website too. One bigger double click. Well, if we can get this to work. If you go to our website, there we go. Thank you. So these are, and you can read some more about some of the objects here as well. Some of them are objects that are here today, like on the page here. But so these are some objects that we had done a little more publicity with, and we partnered with UNLV photography team to get some special photos of some of these objects and try to really circulate, just try to increase again that conversation in this collection. But so on all of these too, there's more information just about the research behind some of the objects too. So that's something that you're more than welcome to check out as well if you'd be interested on our website, in addition to the other features that are on here.
At the back.
So how many objects have you actually cataloged as part of this project so far?
So, like officially cataloged, I had done about 200 objects, but there's close to 1,000, if not over 1,000 in the collection. But that's also including very small, like the tools back there, little things like that, or big pieces of furniture, like each dining table or rocking chairs.
So it's mostly three-dimensional objects?
Yes.
By the way, one last bit of trivia that actually connects, I think, to Boulder City. Rex Bell went into politics. He ran for Congress. He was twice elected lieutenant governor. He was running for governor when he died. And in that connection, yeah, he was out in Boulder City, probably flipping some pancakes on the 4th of July, showing up for the Dept, you know, all the things that they all come out to say hello to you. He was out and about as well. I think we can say feel free to come look and touch. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. Here I have some script. So you are worth your weight in script for taking time to learn about history here in town. I would like to say that my script is actually located in the historic case outside in the retail area. We have all the denominations of the script that were actually tokens that were equivalent to US dollars. So please take a magnet. These were for trade only at the Boulder City Company stores. And I haven't got some official replicas because COVID happened and I didn't have the money to purchase 1,000 of them. But one day I will, and we'll have some authentic replicas. But for now, I just want you to take a magnet for your own personal fridge.
Thank you.
Okay?